Imagine you check your phone and there it is, $1 billion, sitting in your account, real and confirmed. But there's a catch. You have 24 hours to spend every last cent, or it disappears forever. That sounds like a fantasy. But the real answer to what happens next is far stranger than anything you've imagined about wealth. Your first instinct is probably a list, a house, a car, maybe 10 cars. Your brain starts sprinting through catalogs of things it has always wanted. This feels natural. It feels like exactly what a windfall should trigger. But researchers who study sudden wealth have found something your instincts don't expect. The list-making itself is where most people quietly get stuck. In 1978, psychologist Philip Brickman ran a study that has haunted personal finance research ever since. He compared recent lottery winners to a control group of ordinary people and to accident victims who had become paralyzed. A year later, the lottery winners were not meaningfully happier than the ordinary group. Some were less happy than the people who had been paralyzed. Sit with that for a second. Money did not do what it promised. Why would $1 billion behave any differently? Here's the part your brain doesn't want to hear. Speed is not your friend in this scenario. It's your enemy. Give a human being unlimited money and unlimited time, and they'll drift toward comfort, safety, things that feel familiar. But give them unlimited money and only 24 hours, and something else happens entirely. The clock forces decisions your brain was never built to make this fast. Psychologists call this decision fatigue. Every choice you make, no matter how small, drains a limited reserve of mental energy. Choosing a car brand costs you something. Choosing a house costs you more. By hour 6, your billion-dollar brain is running on the same depleted willpower as someone who has spent all day picking out paint swatches. This is why so many actual lottery winners make their worst decisions in the first year. Not because they're careless, because the volume of decisions outpaces the mind's capacity to make them well. There's a second problem hiding underneath the first. Sheena Iyengar, a researcher at Columbia University, ran an experiment now famous in behavioral economics. She set up a table with jam samples in a grocery store. Sometimes 6 flavors, sometimes 24. The bigger display drew more people over to look. But when it came time to actually buy, the smaller display sold 10 times more jam. More options didn't create more satisfaction. It created paralysis. Now scale that up. Instead of jam, it's real estate in 9 countries. Instead of 24 flavors, it's every car, every island, every business you could acquire in 24 hours. Your brain isn't looking at abundance. It's looking at the jam table times 1 billion, and the paralysis scales right along with it. Ever frozen in front of a restaurant menu with too many pages? This is that feeling, except the stakes are your entire fortune, and the clock is already running. So what actually works? This is where the twist arrives, and it isn't what you'd expect. Elizabeth Dunn, a psychologist who has spent years studying money and happiness, ran a study with a simple design. She gave people a small amount of cash. Some were told to spend it on themselves. Others were told to spend it on someone else, a gift, a donation, a favor. At the end of the day, the people who spent on others reported measurably higher happiness than the people who spent on themselves. The amount of money didn't matter much. The direction of the spending did. This lines up with something else researchers have found again and again. Experiences beat objects. A trip with people you love outlasts a car in your driveway, emotionally speaking, because objects adapt into the background of your life almost instantly. This is called hedonic adaptation, and it's brutally efficient. The new car feels incredible for about 3 weeks. Then it's just the car you drive to work. Your brain recalibrates to whatever your new normal is, no matter how extravagant that normal happens to be. A billion-dollar house becomes, eventually, just the house. Experiences resist this in a way objects don't. A wedding you paid for, a hospital debt you erased for a stranger, a scholarship fund with your family's name on it. These don't fade into background noise because they're tied to relationships and memory rather than static ownership. Daniel Kahneman, working alongside economist Angus Deaton, published research in 2010 showing that emotional well-being rises with income only up to a certain point and then flattens out almost completely. Past that point, more money buys almost nothing extra in terms of daily happiness. What does keep moving the needle, according to related research, is connection, time with people, meaning, contribution. So picture the clock again. 24 hours. If you spent hour 1 on a house, hour 2 on cars, and hour 3 frozen over yacht brochures unable to choose between 3 nearly identical ones, you'd be running the exact experiment Brickman warned about, compressed into a single day. But if you spent hour 1 wiring off medical debt for strangers you'll never meet, hour 2 funding 100 small businesses in your hometown, hour 3 flying your entire family somewhere none of you have ever been, something different happens. The $1 billion stops being an inventory problem and becomes a relationship problem. And relationship problems, it turns out, are the ones your brain is actually built to solve well and quickly. There's a strange, quiet trick embedded in the 24-hour deadline itself. Constraint, not freedom, tends to produce better decisions. This shows up everywhere once you look for it. Writers with word limits often produce sharper work than writers with none. Chefs with 5 ingredients often cook better than chefs given an entire pantry. The $1 billion scenario feels like it's testing your ability to enjoy freedom. It's actually testing something closer to the opposite. It's testing what you do when freedom is suddenly finite. Would you even remember, 3 years later, which car you bought in hour 2? Probably not in detail, but you would remember the family you flew somewhere for the first time. You'd remember the name of the small business you funded, the note the owner sent you afterward. Objects blur. Moments involving other people tend to stay sharp. None of this means money doesn't matter. It clearly does, especially at lower levels of income where basic security is still the primary battle. The Kahneman and Deaton findings make that plain. But once security and comfort are handled, and $1 billion handles that in about 4 minutes, the returns shift almost entirely toward connection, meaning, and the kind of spending that involves other people rather than just things. Here's the uncomfortable mirror. You don't need $1 billion for any of this to apply to you. Your actual paycheck, the one that lands in a far more modest account every 2 weeks, is already running through the same psychology. The scroll through an online cart at midnight is the jam table. The new phone that feels thrilling for 3 weeks and then disappears into your pocket like it was always there is hedonic adaptation. Live in your own life. The dinner you paid for with a friend, the one you still talk about a year later, is Dunn's research playing out in miniature. You're running a smaller version of the 24-hour experiment every single week, just with lower stakes and a longer clock. The $1 billion was never really the point. It was a magnifying glass. So the next time your account fills up, even by a few $100s instead of $1 billion, ask yourself the same question the 24-hour clock forces on a billionaire. Not what can I buy, but who does this touch, and will I remember this a year from now? Because the real answer to what you'd do with $1 billion was never about the money at all. It was about what your brain does the moment scarcity disappears and a clock starts running anyway.